Good morning, and thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Chester. You know what I like to do on my show. I want to enlighten you. I want to inspire you. I want to empower you to become your best self. The scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And today we want to get you fired up about our guest, Lisa Sterling. Her book, Good Morning God, a collection of scriptures and illustrations. I know, such an awesome title to a book. So you know what I'm going to tell you to do. Go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea, because we are about to get started. Good morning, Lisa. Thank you so much for joining me on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Oh, by all means. Now, we like to do a little bit of meet and greet at the beginning of each one of our shows. We understand that there may be one or two people out there that are unfamiliar with you or with your work. So before we get started, I want to ask, what makes Lisa Sterling Lisa Sterling? What makes you you?
Well, I'm just a very simple Midwestern woman, can I say? I guess what makes me me is that I'm very blunt, very direct, and I tell it like it is.
And you know, I think that if that's your personality type and people have befriended you, I think they appreciate the fact that you're always going to tell it like it is. You don't like the person that's kind of wishy-washy. You might get your feelings hurt, but at least you know it's coming from a really good place. I have a sister that's like that. If you don't want to hear the truth, then by all means don't ask her. Because if you say, do I look good in this? No. You know, she's just going to tell you. But you know that she's not trying to be malicious by any means, but she's just saying, like, no, you don't. You know, so I can appreciate that. I love it. Now, being an author, is that something that you always wanted to do, or did you find that was just the next thing along your life path?
That's funny you asked me that. Since I was in middle school, I either wanted to be a lawyer or be an author. Well, I didn't want to go through 10 years of school to be a lawyer, so I opted for being an author. Just I'm like, yeah, I don't want school's fine, but yeah, I'm done with that after high school. So yes, so yeah, and I had a knack for writing, and it went from there.
And, you know, it is so funny when I ask that question, I never know, what you guys are going to say, because it's a heartfelt question. And some people, oh, yeah, I've loved literature since I was, in 10th grade. I had one gentleman that says, listen, I didn't know I was going to be an author until the book was published. Like, I was just writing stories and just really kind of putting the stories together. So to actually be an author, like, blows my mind. So, yeah, I hear you. I'm glad that that's something that you realize is a part of who you are and walking in your purpose. Now, I love the title of your book, Good Morning God. I love that part of it. How did you come about such a title? Did it come to you first? Did it develop out of your writings?
I guess it came from my love of sunrises and sunsets, actually. And, well, if you look at the cover of my book, it's actually from the back of my house, actually.
Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I like to picture myself.
It's you. Now, did you have a particular inspiration or a moment that you realized that you needed to write this book? Why was it important that this be shared with the world?
Well, partly my kids, actually, because when they were little, I'm always a natural born storyteller. So I would tell stories at night. And one night my son was like, Mom, you love to write, and you're great at telling stories. Maybe we should write a book. And I did. It took me, over 6 months, I know that, and putting it together and what I wanted to put in there. And then I found Westbow Press, and they took it up, and the rest is history.
I love that. Now, how did your your ideas come together? Did you find that you were able to like sit down at a particular time of day or a particular time of the month and just kind of get all of your ideas down and then develop the stories? How did that happen?
Well, there's no short way to put it, but no, I've always found for me creativity is kind of like breathing. It's just like it hits you whenever. It's like, ooh. And I guess some of the time I had was when my kids were either in school or after 10 o'clock at night when I should have been sleeping. I would just kind of start putting it together, and I must have redid it like 3 or 4 times. And finally, I wanted to use my drawings because I love to color. But the guy working with me, he's like, there's copyright issues. I'm like, no, thank you. So then my family gave me the idea, your pictures you take are so good. Can't you use those? And, well, that's where the pictures on the book came from their idea.
I love it. Now, I know that many times when an author writes about a particular subject, it's something that they're passionate about. It's something that they love and they want to inform others. Do you find that this is a part of your passion that you almost felt compelled, like, I have to share this information?
No, I've always had a passion for writing and for ideas and being creative. And it's just one of those things where I just love to do it, and I thought, I'm just going to do it, so I did.
Absolutely. Now, when you were writing, did you have a particular group of people in mind? Like, were you writing to include our young adults, like the college age students, or were you writing for just in general for anyone who wanted to be inspired?
Well, mainly, I'm glad you asked me that question. Mainly for like families and kids that are learning to read. Because to me, reading is it's an important thing, and kids need to do it, and they do things by association and repetition. So my thought was, I was gearing it more towards little kids and families because families spend time together. They like to read, play games, watch TV, and, reading is a great opportunity to do with your kids. And I thought, what better way than to do this?
And, I think that one of the reasons why I enjoy books so much is because my mother introduced books to me at a very young age, and it was always fun. Reading was fun. It wasn't a chore. It wasn't something that I hated to do. When I hear some people nowadays, it's like, you guys should go read a book, and they're like, what? Read a book? And it's like, absolutely. It is so much fun. It's like, I don't want to read a book. It's like, well, go listen to a book, but it's like, go. The writing of the book, thanks to Audible, now we're able to at least listen to someone else read the book to us. So I have to agree with you there. Now, when someone picks up a copy of your book, do you suggest that they read it any particular way? Like, some people will say, you read it from cover to cover, or you can start anywhere in the book, or a lot of times with children's books, they may suggest, try to pick out a voice for each character. Do you have any suggestions as to how we should read the book, or just read it like you would any other book?
Yeah. I mean, if you want to do it like as a picture book, because just with the pictures, you can do stories from that way, or, just reading the words, because there's not a lot of words, because I wanted my pictures to tell more of the story than anything.
I do understand. I remember when I was a teacher's assistant, and I was a substitute one day for another classroom because their person was out, and it was with little kids, and I thought that it was just so much fun because they couldn't read and they could only look at the pictures, and for them to have story time where they looked at the pictures and kind of told us the story of what was going on. I just thought that was so cute. And it's like, wow, the illustrations really are important, even if the child doesn't know what the author has written, how their imagination is really allowed to soar because of such great illustrations. I love it. Now, do you Do you find that when you're writing that it brings you kind of a sense of peace? Does it calm you down? Or do you think of writing kind of as work, like as that 9 to 5?
Well, with writing, there's really no 9 to 5 unless you're a reporter or a journalist. But since this is more on the creative side with a little bit of organization, I guess for me, writing has always just come naturally like breathing. And I don't know how many journals that I have had over the years, but I have had a lot. And so it just, I don't know, it's kind of like it made sense. It's like, someday I'm going to be an author. And I think I told all my family that. And, you know, when it came out, if I could have done flips, I would have done flips. I mean, when I thought, it was like, oh my gosh, this is an actual book and it has my name on it. I was just so excited. And my husband's like, oh my goodness, that is your name. I'm like, yes, it is.
It is an amazing feeling, and I know that for so many people, they think that like we're putting on when we say that, but it's not. Especially when it's something that you've never done before. You know, that first book that you write, it is just so exciting. I remember that holding that first book, Joe, and like I cannot believe that's my name. Like you said, that's my name on this book. Amazing. And then
exactly.
The next thing that blew my mind was when I received the listing of someone purchasing the book internationally. So they list it in their money, and it's like euros. I have euros. Oh, man. You know. Like, amazing, I've sold a book internationally. So it really and truly, those first that happen, they really are pretty awesome. So I hear you. Now, do you think that your faith has played a big part in you getting to where you are today? And if so, how do you think that has made a difference in your life?
Well, my faith has been monumental in every aspect of my life, in every experience and situation that I have been through. It has carried through, oh my gosh, through being a rape survivor to my husband dying 3 years ago, struggling with infertility, oh my gosh, adopting 2 kids, dealing with the after effects of my husband dying and everything that went with it. So, yes, my faith has been monumental in every decision that I have made because I know I can count on that. It's one of those things people ask, well, how do you know God is real? How do you know you can count on faith? And you've always said the same thing. I'm like, how can you not? Tell me you can't, and I'll tell you why you can.
Right.
You know, I will get the second part of the question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. That you answered that. That was spot on. You know that your faith plays an important role, and like you said, with all of the things, all of the joys, all of the sadness, but all of the joys that you've gone through, you almost have to have faith because you can't do this by yourself. You know,
no.
You know that. Not just all of, as awesome as we are as people, we know that God is even more awesome. So you have to depend on your faith. I know that I was a child that grew up in the church. I went to Christian school and all of that. So, you know, God and Jesus has been a part of my life since I can remember. Do you think that your faith, that accepting Christ has been something that's been a part of your life since you were a kid, or do you remember when you took that step, that leap into faith?
Oh, exactly. I'm so glad you asked me that because I actually got a chance to watch my mom be baptized when I was probably about 6 or 7 when we lived in Texas. And that's, of course, sparked questions. It's just like, why is Mommy getting dunked underwater? You know? But yeah, I got home and I don't remember all the other stuff, but I remember my dad sitting on the end of their bed and he's like, this is who Jesus is. How does that make you feel? And I'm like, I want that. So I was around 7 when I invited him into my heart. But as far as like actively walking with him, I didn't start doing that till probably my early 20s when I met my husband at 19 because I was really backslidden and, I don't know, just not following like I should have been. And I love how he said, he's like, if you don't put God first, everything else will fall out of place and you're going to be confused. And I have lived by that statement ever since I met him at 19. And I've always carried those words with me because they're just so powerful. Mm-hmm. Your whole life can be messed up, but if you don't have that focus on it, you're like stumbling in the dark.
You really are. You really, really are. And it makes such a big difference. And I think that so many times people think that again, that people are exaggerating or that they're putting on. But we're not. You're really, really not. And it's like you just haven't. I tell people, just live a little bit longer. If you haven't had that come to Jesus moment, if you haven't had that moment yet, where you realize that you really and truly have to give it all to God, that you have to turn it over to him and allow him to do it for you, it's coming. Just live a little bit longer. And it's not that it has to be something, really, really traumatic. It just has to be something that you can't control, and that it's not up to you to make it happen, but it really is a God moment. And thank you for sharing that as well. Well, Lisa, it is time for us to go to break. But before we do, can you remind everyone, please, what is the title of your book? Where can we get a copy? And how do we stay in contact with you?
Sure. The title of my book is Good Morning God, a collection of scriptures and illustrations by Lisa Sterling. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter.
We'll be back right after this. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Buckchester. My guest today is Lisa Sterling, and we're talking about her book, Good Morning God, a collection of scriptures and illustrations. I love the title of the book. I love those titles that really are expressive, that they pull us in. And I think a title like Good Morning God, you're like, I want to know, what is she talking about? Is that a devotional? Is that an inspirational? Is that motivational? What's she doing? So
right.
So my next question for you, Lisa, is about your hopes and aspirations as an author. But so many authors are like, nope, one and done. Others will say, I wrote this book. Oh, my goodness, I've been bitten by the author bug. I can't stop writing. Where do you think you fall? Do you want to write other books, or do you think this is it for you?
No, I think down the line I would like to do, some other stuff, because I'm always playing around with ideas, and I have other projects that I'd like to work on. It's just a matter of doing it.
And I can understand that. I think when you're writing, it does have to also be the perfect timing in your life, or the book kind of gets wonky. It kind of goes off in this other direction that you had no intention of going.
Right.
It's like, this book I wanted to write, so I can definitely understand that. Now, do you have any authors that have inspired you? Now, be it that they help you write the books that you write, or simply authors that inspire you to continue to just lead an awesome life. Do you have anyone that inspires you?
Well, I've been reading Jonathan Kellerman since I was a teenager, and I just love his stuff, how he's just very creative. But another author that's a longtime favorite is Iris Johansson, and she wrote a trilogy, and I just love her stuff. It's just, I don't know, it's creative, it's fun, it's like a 10-minute vacation in your head. So those are two authors off the top of my head that I just really, really love to read.
And I think that for so many people, it seems like we tend to do one thing or the other. Either we read books strictly for information, like we want to be able to talk about a particular subject, or especially when we're in school, we read books because it's on the list, and we have to do some type of follow-up or for research. Or it seems like people read strictly for fun, just to kind of get away from the rat race of the day, and they read for pleasure. And I love how with authors, it's like we can kind of do a little bit of both. I'm reading for information's sake, but I'm also reading because I want to let my mind, take a rest as well. And I think that's really fun that we're able to do that. Now, kind of the same vein, words tend to inspire authors and take us to a different place because we have a certain understanding of words or how they make us feel as writers. Do you have a particular scripture? My listeners know that I have shared that Jeremiah 29:11 is my life verse. It helps me get through my day to day. But do you have a particular scripture or a particular quote even that has really inspired you or helped you get through your day to day?
Oh, gosh. That makes me think, aren't you? I know I really like Philippians 1:6, where it says, "And I am sure of this, that he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion at the day of Jesus Christ." Because I love a lot of the verses in Philippians, because I know when it got written, Paul was just like, on fire, and he wanted people to know. And it's kind of like being an author. You're on fire, you want people to know, and eventually when it gets out, it's like, oh, people can read this, people can see this. And it's kind of like, with the scripture. People read it, and sometimes they don't get it, they don't understand it. But, the more you read it, the more you can understand it.
I can definitely understand. It's kind of like the scripture that I say in the beginning of the show, which is James 3:5. And depending on how you understand it, or to me, like how you want to use it, many times when we discuss that scripture, it's talking about people gossiping. The tongue makes the grand speeches. They say all of these flowery words that can get people in trouble. Because it could spark a fire if you do the wrong thing. But instead, it's like I want to spark you to do something great instead of doing something that's destructive. So I can definitely understand in how we're able to use to empower us, to keep us going and keep us moving forward. I love it. I love it. Now, as far as what you do in your spare time, so many authors they write full time, so they're always writing something, even if they're not working on a particular project, they're working on a something project. And others even have, that 9-to-5 job that they're doing and they're writing at the same time. What do you do in your spare time that kind of brings you a sense of peace or just a quiet time to help refresh your mind?
Well, I am a huge movie buff. I love a good movie. And one of my all-time favorite movies is The Princess Bride. There is a lot of great life applications in that movie. And I've read the book probably 5 or 10 times. I've seen that movie. I lost count. But that movie is just an awesome movie. It's just one of those things I love to do. That, or I love to color. I like colors, and I like to create, and I like putting these colors together. Oh, yeah, I have a huge collection of coloring books and everything to go with it. So, oh, yeah.
Absolutely. And, it's so funny because I remember this was years and years ago, like maybe even like 10 years ago now. I remember sharing with someone saying, I love to color. And I know that most people think that coloring is something that you only do when you're like in elementary school. And I said, no, there's something about the creative process of you just giving someone, a white paper with black lines that have created a design, but you taking it to the next level and expressing yourself with those colors. I find that it's very, creative. What a beautiful thing to do. And they were like, yeah, whatever. And now, fast forward, there are adult coloring books, right? You can buy them at major bookstores, order it online. Shout out to Amazon for the adult coloring books. So it really and truly, and I mean adult as in not like, like a rated X thing, but a coloring book that's for adults as opposed for children. Like we're not coloring Barbie, but really and truly those things for us. And it is such a beautiful way to help calm your mind, to help center yourself and just have those moments where you're not worried about, what's going on or the kids or the stresses of the day. And it really does, it does bring you back to center. I love that. I love that. Well, my last question for you today, Lisa, is that what piece of advice do you have for anyone who may be an aspiring author? So many people are listening in, and they're trying to figure out if they should or shouldn't write that book, if they should get started this year, next year. What words of encouragement or inspiration do you have for them?
I love that question. And I would start with, first of all, there's no such thing as perfection, and nobody is perfect. So that's a big thing I would stress, because too many people put too much emphasis on, if I can't do this right, I don't want to do that. So I'm going to start with that, and then I'm going to follow up with write. Whenever you get a chance, even if it's a sentence or two or a paragraph, but that's the only way you're going to get good, is practice, repetition, and just keep doing it and keep writing, because that will inspire ideas. Look at pictures. That can give you great ideas too. And even read more books, because that gives you even more ideas to draw upon. So just practice, and always remember you're human and you're not perfect.
Great advice. I love it. Well, Lisa Sterling, thank you so much for coming on and sharing with our listeners today, and especially talking about your book, Good Morning, God. Thank you again for being on. Now, before I let you go, if you can remind everyone one more time, where can we get a copy of the book? And if someone wants to stay in contact with you, can they follow you on Facebook, or should they send you an email? How do we do that?
I love emails, because I'm always checking emails like 30 times a day. So you can shoot me an email, or you can find me on Twitter, Facebook. No, it's just saying the name of the book is Good Morning, God, a collection of scriptures and illustrations.
Thank you again, Lisa Sterling, for being on the show today.
Thank you very much.
And listeners, thank you for tuning in as well. As always, may the Lord continue to shine his face upon you. May you receive his grace and his mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember, you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day, everyone. Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Butchester. You know what I'd like to do on my show. I want to enlighten you. I want to inspire you. I want to empower you to become your best self. The scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And today we want to get you fired up about our guest, Shema. Her book, Battling Forgiveness. So you know what I'm going to tell you to do. Go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea, because we are about to get started. Good morning, Shema. Thank you so much for joining me here on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad that you are here. Now, before we start talking about your book, there may be a few people out there that are a little unfamiliar with you or with your work. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are? What makes you you?
My name is Shema. I am a wife. I am a mother, and I have 3 sons. I work as a chef. And I was born in a country called Rwanda in East Africa. I've been in America for 20 years.
I love it. Now, how did you enjoy settling into America? Being, of course, someone who has grown up in a different culture, anyone growing up not in the United States, I'm sure, has a little bit of culture shock when they arrive here to the States. How did you take to settling into your new home?
It was exciting because when I moved here, I was 16. As a teenager, everything was exciting except that I didn't speak English. So it was a little bit hard at first. I struggled for 2 years learning English, but once I got to know English, everything was amazing. I enjoyed seeing snow for the first time. As I come from a tropical country, snow was truly amazing for me to see it for the first time, and of course, getting to know everyone.
Absolutely. I can understand that. It's like my son grew up in California, and I remember one winter we went to Virginia to spend Christmas with my parents, and it snowed. And he was just like, "What? This is crazy." You know, it's like this is East Coast snow, huh? Okay. So yeah, it is a little bit different when you're used to that California sunshine or that eastern beautiful coast that the continent of Africa offers us. It is really truly amazing. Now, being an author, is that something that you've always wanted to do, or did you find that it was just the next thing to do along your life journey?
No, I didn't want to be an author when I was young. It's just something that happened to be a therapeutic for me. I always wrote little things just to clear my head. That's how we started. It just started by just writing in a journal about what was happening to me.
And I love asking that question because every author has their version, and most, it's really funny, most say, nope, didn't know I was going to do this, when I was in high school. It just kind of happened. So I love that. That's inspiration, in my mind, that's inspiration to that person who thinks that, I'm in my 40s or I'm in my 50s or even in my 60s. Why would someone, why would I write a book? Where most people are successful because they're writing their truth, because it's the perfect time for them. Now, the title of your book, Battling Forgiveness, how did you come about such an interesting title?
It came about, after I finished writing my book, I realized that the only title I can give it was based on the struggle I had forgiving my family members who have caused a lot of pain in my life. So that's how I came with that title. It was hard for me to forgive. I really battled that forgiveness.
And I think you are probably talking about a road that a lot of people are on. And it's quite interesting how many times the people that have caused us the most pain and turmoil happen to be those folks that we're related to, be it that it's marriage or blood relatives, your parents or a cousin or whomever. It's just really interesting how it tends to be people that are really close to us. So that's a really great reason to pick up a copy of the book to see how you dealt with that. Now, what made you decide when you started writing, like really putting, or let me phrase it a different way, when you decided that I need to put this together in a work so that I can share this with the world, what made you decide that it was time in that moment? Was there a particular prompting that happened?
Yes, it was. As people get to read this book, they will get to see how it happened. But I reached the point in my life where I was facing a lot of trials, and I got to the point where I put everything behind me, and I knew praying, because I always pray to God, that it was the time. I heard a voice in me saying, this is the time to write that book. Because I used to be afraid of putting my story out, mainly because I didn't have confidence of what people are going to say, because this is a true story. But once I got that confidence, I just decided to go ahead and share it.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I'm glad that you did, because especially now that we are still kind of dealing with the pandemic, this is a really great time for people to utilize this time to look within, to do some self-assessment, read a really good book, and come out of all of this a better person. And sometimes reading someone else's story can really get those fires going within ourselves to go, oh my goodness, she did that? I was thinking about doing that too. And that gives them the prompting to go on and step out in faith. I love it. I love it. Now, you say that you were kidnapped, or you mentioned that you were kidnapped when you're owned by your father. What's going on there? You mentioned something about a kidnapping happening. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, when I was 5 years old, I lived with my mother in a small village, I can say countryside, with my mother and her parents, my grandparents. Those were the only people I knew. I was very loved. I was the only, small kid over there. I was happy. And then one day, show up a man claiming to be my father. Of course, my mother knew him. And he took me by force from my mom. And I know that this is my father, and I know I say it's kidnapping, but the reason why I say it's kidnapping is because he took me by force and locked me in his car, watched him beat up my mom so much, and there was a lady in that car holding me so I don't get out. And I was screaming, my mom was screaming, and eventually my father got in the car, drove off, and my mom was running behind the car, throwing rocks, screaming. And that was the last time I ever saw my mother, and it's been 33 years now. So that's why I call that kidnapping.
I can definitely understand why you would use that word now, and it's so heartbreaking when we're talking about children, when the parents, when the adults are going through stuff, or it's a family member that's going through stuff. There are so many people right now that can probably relate to what you're talking about, and them especially not being able to see another parent when they love that parent and really enjoyed being with them, and they haven't seen them in so long. Yeah, my heart breaks for that especially. How did you feel going back to that time? And I definitely understand you only reveal that which you're comfortable sharing with us, but how did it feel to be, a small girl and waking up in this new home, in this new environment?
It was scary. It was really scary because I came from a very poor mom to a big city, into a man who had a lot of money, big house, maids, his wife, his other children. I didn't know anyone. Waking up in that environment, I remember feeling scared and outsider. And I wanted my mom. I don't really remember, but I really do think I cried a lot, many, many times, because I was only 5 and I didn't know anyone. So it was really a traumatic experience that I still deal with to this day.
Of course, I can definitely understand that. And, there was a time period here, especially in the States, during a lot of the baby boomer generation, I think, has experienced, unfortunately, having to leave one particular environment and move to another, simply because their fathers were killed in the war, and their mothers had to make a particular decision in order for them to survive. And many times those kids went to go live with someone else whom they did not know. It may not have been such a tragic removal, but still going from living in one place to another as a child and not being able to see that parent can be very difficult. I definitely thank you and appreciate you for sharing that. Now, Shema, it is time for us to go to break. But before we do, can you please remind everyone what is the title of your book, where can we get a copy, and of course, how do we stay in contact with you?
My book is Battling Forgiveness, and you can find it on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com, and you can keep in touch with me on Facebook. My name on Facebook is the name of the book, Battling Forgiveness.
All righty, everyone. Now you know where you can get a copy of the book. We'll be back right after this. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Butchester. My guest today is Shema, and we are talking about her book, Battling Forgiveness. Now, I absolutely love the title of your book and how you are sharing everything that you're sharing, and you're telling us a really heartfelt question. A heartfelt part of your life. My next question is about your mom. Did you mention that you haven't seen her this entire time? Surely you miss her. How do you deal with that?
When I was a little girl and I missed my mom, obviously I asked about her, but my stepmom and my dad will beat me up so much because they wanted me to forget about her. They wanted to keep this as a secret. So it got to the point where I stopped asking and stopped talking about her because that was the only way I could live safely in that house. But as an adult now, I'm able to speak to her. I haven't seen her with my own eyes, but I'm able to speak to her on the phone.
Yeah. Oh my. Now, be it that you grew up in what we refer to now as a blended family with your stepmother being there. How did the two of you get along? Prayerfully, she treated you well, or at least she was kind. Was that the case?
No, it was not the case. It was she was actually forced to raise me because growing up, I noticed that women were treated different. We were not equal to men. So my father had me, but he forced his wife to raise me. So she didn't like me. I was a reminder of my father cheating on her. So our relationship was not good.
It is just quite interesting the dynamic of the parents that we receive. Sometimes we end up with parents that have a great emotional IQ, and they really try to tune into their children. And then, unfortunately, so many people have the story of my parents were not the best. They weren't good parents, but they also had a hard time even being just like a good person because they were battling with so many things themselves. So, yes, I think your story is probably hitting home for a lot of people. Now, you had siblings. How was your relationship with your siblings?
Well, it was not great at the beginning because I was the youngest coming into a family that's already formed, and they were older than me. They knew I was coming from a different mother. They didn't treat me well. It was truly hard getting used to them. And for me, as a 5-year-old and growing up, all I really wanted was to be loved and accepted by this new family. So as people get to read this book, they're going to see what happened next.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, that is so true for every child. Unfortunately, when we hear about or even read about some of these stories about young children that were abused, the one thing that everyone says is the kid had such a great personality. They were sweet and kind and loving. And the child says, I just want to be loved. I just want to be loved by my parents or my siblings or, whomever, by my caretaker. I just want to be loved. And I think that's not only true for children, but as adults as well. We all just want to be loved. And I'm so glad. Bravo again for sharing your story and for coming out, because I know that for so many people it's hard to share a story that isn't positive. It can be hard to share a story about something that happened to you. So thank you again for sharing that. Now, for those people that really are aspiring to be an author as well, and they would like to pick your brain, I'm going to ask you some questions for those folks out there. Now, even though you're sharing, a personal story, and it's not something that you have to create in your head, even still, I'm sure there were some things that you wanted to make sure that you did. So here's my question. Did you find that you needed to write at a particular time of day, or did you need it to be, or did you simply write whenever the spirit hit you, so to speak? Like, were you a morning person before everyone gets up, you needed to write, or was it just you jotted down notes as you went along the day?
For me, it's usually at night, 12 a.m., 1 a.m., when it's quiet, everybody's asleep. It's just the thoughts that come to me. It's the spirit that comes to me. And when I start getting inspired, I just have to write it down before I forget anything. That's when I'm good with writing.
I can understand that. I'm a bit of a night owl. I'm not an a super early riser. So I think I can understand too, kind of that quiet of the night when everyone has kind of settled in and the world is quiet. I love that. My mom's very much kind of a sunrise person. So it's interesting to hear how that dynamic plays into everyone's life. Now, when it comes to the what many people consider to be a success. So many times we think of a successful person as, you're driving a fancy car, you live in the fancy house, your kids go to private school, yada yada. That type of thing. But literary success can be a different thing. It may be a particular goal that you've set for a number of books sold or an amount of money made. Many people have asked this question of, say, success for them is just if I help one person, I'm contented with that. It may not be something that you've thought about in the past, but what do you think literary success is?
To me, success is being able to live your truth, be able to have peace, be able to have family and friends, get along with everybody. Life is hard and it's short, and it's good to have material things. It helps you to live an easy life. But to me, success is truly just being happy and have peace.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. I think that one of the things that the year 2020 taught the world is that we want more peace in our lives. We want happiness and joy. We want things to be, even keeled. We want things to be calm. We don't want the drama. There was a song, No More Drama. I think that definitely applied to the year 2020, and as we start to settle into this year 2021, that continues to be the theme. Like, let's not bring that drama over into the new year. I agree with you on that one. Now, for so many of my guests that have been on, they say, Dr. Angela, I wrote this one book. I'm happy. I'm done. I'm not writing anymore. Others have said, nope, I've been bitten by the writer's bug. I can't wait to write another book. Where do you fall with that? Do you think that there's another book in you, or do you think that this is it for now?
Definitely, there's more books in me. I'm a storyteller. Everywhere I am, I tell stories. So I like to write my stories because I cannot tell enough people. So I find that if I write it, then I can be able to reach many people and tell them stories.
I just love that nowadays we are able to do so much more. We're able to reach so many more people in a way that we simply couldn't before. Thanks to technology, we're able to work from home, or we're able to, just be a little bit more mobile and able in the way that we're able to do things, and it does allow us to recreate ourselves to our highest sense of self, to achieve all of those things that we want to do. I love it. I love it. Now, for someone out there who is experiencing what you experienced as a little girl, they too have, some stories of being removed or growing up someplace that they never imagined, and they too were not treated as fairly and as lovingly as they should. Do you have any words of encouragement or inspiration for them to let them know that it will be okay?
What I can say about that is that life changes. Everything we experience is temporary. I know now, and I wish someone have told me that when I was young. Don't give up. What you are experiencing now, tomorrow it might not be. Because if you know where I came from, you will never believe that I will ever be able to be where I am today. I am happy. I'm a better person, and the future is just wonderful. And I want you to know that it can happen to you too.
What a beautiful way to wrap up the show. I love it. Such a beautiful sentiment. I love it. Before I let you go, though, can you please remind everyone one last time, what is the title of your book? Where can we get a copy? And, of course, how do we stay in contact with you?
My book is Battling Forgiveness. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it on Barnes & Noble. And you can keep in touch with me on Facebook. And my names on Facebook is the same names as my book, Battling Forgiveness.
Shema, thank you so much again for spending time with me here on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela.
Thank you so much, Dr. Angela, for having me on your show.
Of course. Thank you for coming on. And listeners, thank you as well for tuning in today. As always, may the Lord continue to shine his face upon you. May you receive his grace and his mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember, you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.